Alright, ladies and gentlemen, how are you guys doing today on this Friday, January the 29th, 2021? What a year it's going to be here on the channel. Thank you for joining me tonight for another metallic episode of Music of Destruction, bringing you the best in metal related content here on YouTube on the only metal channel you need. If you missed anything in the past week, click the I in the upper right corner, get caught up on all my latest videos. I would really appreciate it. If you'd like me to review anything, please make suggestions down in the comment section below. No metalcore, slam, or deathcore. I don't like those genres. There's no point in requesting them. Also, please remember to subscribe and turn on that bell so you don't miss anything. This is the hardest working metal channel on YouTube, bar none, and no one is going to give it to you like I do, period. Welcome to Metal Album Warfare Fridays once again here on the channel, and I hope you've been enjoying this series as well as everything else I've put out so far. So tonight's battle is between two underground black metal acts with Marks of the Masochist versus Enecare, and this split was released in 2008 on Satan's Millennium Productions in collaboration with Rusty Axe Records. And this one was a really rare find for me, and I had to order it directly through Rusty Axe, which is no longer active, unfortunately. But it was an album that was very difficult for me to track down, and I remember hearing it back in 2008, and I was absolutely fucking enthralled with it, and I knew I had to get a copy of it because I love both of the bands on this split. Now, Marks of the Masochist is a depressive black metal act that hail from Denver, Colorado, and play a really harsh style of DSBM with some of the sickest, most pain-filled vocals I've ever heard, and they're bent on suicide, death, and darkness. And this is clearly illustrated in the music on this side of the split. Now, Enecare is a misanthropic black metal project hailing from Ireland, and he plays some of the most chaotic, claustrophobic, raw, dense, hateful black metal fucking possible. And the atmosphere on his side of the split is bone-chilling and absolutely insane, to say the least, and I could see why these two bands decided to do a split album together. So let's get into the battle, shall we? First up, we have Marks of the Masochist, This Swelling Void, or The Swelling Void, versus Enecare's The Eye of Satan. And you know, both of those songs are so fucking compelling emotionally, and very surreal and chaotic and violent, but also very cold and dark and atmospheric. And Marks of the Masochist, of course, is the more depressive side, whereas Enecare is more chaotic, raw, black noise in some ways, but you can hear the riffs. It's a lot more raw than the Marks of the Masochist side, but both of these songs have a very compelling atmosphere and something that you will definitely be enthralled by. So I'm going to give a point to each of those tracks from both bands. So we have a tie on that one. Next up, we have Marks of the Masochist, Burn Out My Eyes, Burn Out My Tongue versus Enecare, Gospel of Disease. And you know, Gospel of Disease on the Enecare side of things is some of the most disturbing raw black metal I've heard. And I've also got Enecare's Dawn of Creation's Ruin, which is another fucking insane album. But the Marks of the Masochist, Burn Out My Eyes, Burn Out My Tongue is very disturbingly complex as well in terms of like the emotional content and stuff. But yeah, they're both instrumentally incredible bands, though it's very primitive music on both sides. I'm going to give a point to both of them there as well. Next up, Marks of the Masochist, Recalling the Violent and Bleak versus Enecare's Its Voice Lies Torture. And as far as how crazy both of these songs are in terms of how bleak and depressing they are, they're both equal in that sense. But of course, Enecare's style is a lot more raw and hateful rather than sad and melancholic. But you could see how these two bands fit on the same split because they have a very similar goal in mind. One of them is more bent on self-destruction, whereas the other one's more bent on annihilation of mankind. Both of them achieve those goals with these tracks, and these songs are equally fucking disturbing, so I have to give a point to both of them there as well. Next is Marks of the Masochist, This Painful Edge of Sanity versus Enecare, The Hell We Seek. And I mean, that really says it all. Both of these songs, though one is more raw than the other and more chaotic, they both have a very similar atmosphere and emotional context that I find to be equally disturbing on both fronts, as well as equally well thought out and planned and executed, that I've got to give a point to both of these songs from both bands as well. Next, we have Marks of the Masochist, Rampant and Miserable versus Enecare-Perversion. And you know, you just got to listen to this fucking album because these tracks, I couldn't pick a fucking winner, man, because this is such good black metal. But one's more raw, as I said. Marks of the Masochist a little bit more clean, but a little bit more abrasive vocally. As Enecare's side of things, the vocals are more buried, like in an abyss type deal, whereas on the Marks of the Masochist side, the vocals are a lot more shrill and higher up in the mix, to give a very different atmosphere, but also similar at the same time. Kind of a paradoxical approach from both of these bands, but these tracks equally fucking sick, savage, and disturbing, so I gotta give a point to both of them there. Next up, Marks of the Masochist, Illumination of Obliteration versus Enecare-Devouring the Moon. And those song titles really say it all, because when you listen to both of these songs, you can certainly feel exactly what they're getting at in terms of composition and execution, but also in the way the vocal deliveries are on both of these albums and bands. It's really hard to pick winners because the tracks really belong side by side on both sides of this split. And I really love it when bands do splits because it gives me a chance to compare them, for them to do battle, and it's perfect for Metal Album Warfare because I get to compare two bands on the same album, and I really like it. So yeah, both these tracks equally fucking savage and disturbing and emotionally complex, so I have to give a point to both of them. Closing out both of these guys' sides of the split, we've got Marks of the Masochist, Confused Ramblings of the Divine, versus Enecare's The Sword That Splits the Sky. And again, I got to give a point to both because they're so fucking incredible, diverse, emotionally complex, but also really hateful and bleak. And most people aren't going to like this stuff, and that's kind of the whole fucking point. And that's part of the reason I'm so fascinated with it, is because it appeals only to certain fucking people like myself. And I really find myself coming back to this one a lot. I really love this record and everything it's comprised of in its entire ideology, which is death, darkness, suicide, hate, and annihilation of mankind and misanthropy. I mean, what more do you want from black metal? Both of these both of these artists, absolutely fucking killer, and I gotta give a point to both. So let's add up the scores. We've got Marks of the Masochist coming in with 7 points, and Enecare coming in with 7 points. So we have another tie here on Metal Album Warfare Fridays. Very difficult for me to pick winners when I compare two albums in my collection because I bought them for a fucking reason. There are bands that I like more than other bands in my collection. It all depends on the album and the tracks on each album. However, we got another tie. Hope you guys enjoyed tonight's video. So there you have it. Another Metal Album Warfare in the books here on Music of Destruction. If this is your first time here, make sure to subscribe and turn on that bell. Select all in the notifications so you don't miss anything. You can follow me over on Twitter and Instagram at Music of Destruction. Follow me on Twitch, twitch.tv/Music of Destruction. You can join the Facebook group, talk about metal, whatever you want to talk about metal-wise, facebook.com/groups/Music of Destruction. The Seed, episode number 29, The History of Iron Maiden, part 2, up on Patreon right now. If you'd like to show your support, patreon.com/Music of Destruction. Select the $5 tier. You will get access. The Seed, episode number 30, The History of Iron Maiden, part 3, is going to be up in just a few short days, so make sure you pay attention to that. Your support going to new things like equipment and other things to help keep the channel going, as Colton, James, and myself preparing reviews on the run as we speak. There was a problem with the order with the cameras, but they are coming in the mail now. We're really excited for what we're putting together in terms of movie and game reviews, but we're also doing a bunch of behind-the-scenes stuff for a new film that we're working on. Let's check out a new clip that he just made New Year's Day. And we are back. Thank you guys for watching. Subscribe, like, comment. Have an awesome night. We will see you for Metal Album Review Tuesdays. Have a great night. See you in the next video.